In this video, I will be demonstrating how to run a lab in this workbook. So I've got my Ubuntu server here with container labs installed, the Git repo cloned, and the different images loaded into Docker. So if you followed the setup steps on this page, you're at the same place that I am. So now I'm going to explain how the topology files work. So if you've never seen container labs, you might be confused by this at first. So let me show you the file for MVPN. So this is a YAML file, and this is all you need to start a topology. This defines everything that's needed in the topology. So it's got a name, it's got the management subnet. I would highly recommend leaving this management subnet if you can, because these management IPs are hard-coded here on every node, as well as in the XRD config files and in the multi-topology PuTTY XML session files. So it will be a real headache if you want to change this management subnet. All you need to do is point a route for this subnet to this actual server's IP address. And in my case, the server is on the same LAN as my PC here. And I found that there are some problems with ICMP redirects because my router would redirect and say, hey, that next hop is actually this, which is on the LAN. And then I couldn't reach the node. So what I did is I just added a route manually onto my Windows PC for this management subnet to the IP address of the server. And then now it's all working. So next we have all the different nodes in the topology, and each node has a particular kind, like XRV, CSR1000V, and the syntax of these kinds comes from the Container Labs documentation. And every node needs the image file, and to group these together, these are placed up here. So for the kinds, you've got XRV, here's the particular image file. This corresponds to the Docker image, and if you want to change the versions of these nodes, you can. This would be the only place you need to change it because these are inherited down into the nodes. Um, but I just caution you with doing this because some things might not work. And I've gone through all of the labs and verified that all of the features work for these particular versions that I've got here. So you're better off, I think, just sticking with these versions. Um, but of course, if you need to do it, you can go ahead and change that here. So next we have the nodes. Each node has a name. It has the kind, its management IP, and it may or may not have a startup config. So for certain nodes, I need to put a startup config to be able to SSH to them and transfer the config files. Other types like CSR1000V does not need the startup config, so it just varies. Um, for the VIOS, they're kind of a unique case because they use the kind Linux, and to transfer the config file, you do this kind of thing where you do a bind. But you don't really need to worry about this. That's there, and that's just how it's working. I've also got some startup delays. So if your server is limited in terms of resources, you might need to increase these delays, add more delays to different nodes. Uh, the problem you might run into is that when too many nodes start up at once, some of them may crash. And you'll see this, you'll see that the node is unhealthy in the next step. But that's what this startup delay is doing. If you've got plenty of resources, you're welcome to just remove these startup delays. If you don't want to wait too long for the topology to start, it's all just up to you. And then finally, we've got the different links. So every single link in the topology is defined statically. So you've got the name of the node and then the interface. And in the Container Labs documentation, you can find out how like ETH1 on XRV corresponds to gig 0000, and ETH2 on CSR1000V corresponds to gig 2, I believe, because gig 1 is used by management. So that kind of stuff is in the documentation if you want it. So that's how the topology file works. So now we can go ahead and start the topology. So in every one of these chapters, the first page is the start page, and it shows you how to deploy the topology. So all we need to do is copy this command. And the reconfigure flag, I think it's only really needed for XRD because the XRD is an actual container and the state can be saved if you've ran the topology before. So this dash dash reconfigure just ensures that every single time you're getting a completely clean wiped topology. So I'm just in the habit of always adding that. So now you can see some of these containers are being delayed. So this will take 5 minutes because the maximum delay here is 5 minutes. So I'll pause the video here and then we'll see what it looks like when it's done launching. So now our topology is finished launching and we get this table with the name of each node and the state it's in. They're all running, but this doesn't mean that we're quite ready yet to SSH into the nodes because some of the nodes might still be booting up and we need a few more minutes. So to see whether the containers or the nodes are up and running yet, we can use this command docker container ls, and we see that there's a few nodes that are healthy, but some of them are still unhealthy. And when Container Labs is finished deploying the node and verifies that the console is ready to be accessed, then it will change to healthy. So we'll have to wait a few more minutes for all these nodes to go healthy. And if you want to continually watch this and refresh it, you can just preface the command with watch. And now this will refresh every couple seconds and you can monitor and wait for all the nodes to go healthy. So I'll go ahead and pause it here. We'll wait a few more minutes. The server I'm running on is a very old server, so I don't think the nodes will take this long to start up on your server, just to give you a heads up. So I've actually run into an issue now. I figured this might be a good opportunity to explain how to handle this. I don't think you'll run into this issue with a newer server. The server, like I said, is extremely old. Um, so one of these nodes is stuck on unhealthy. And if I take the name of the node and I get out of this, Control C, I can use the command docker logs and the name of the node dash F. Um, and this shows me that about 7 minutes ago, it's been waiting for something on console and there's a commit failure. So I don't like to waste my time trying to figure out what's going on. It could be a lot of different things. I just like to rerun the topology completely. So I'll just do container lab destroy all and then just deploy this all over again. And again, I don't think you should really have to be too concerned with this because this server is from like 15 years ago. Um, so I'll deploy it again, and there's a good chance it will just work the next time. If still having problems, I can add some startup delays to try to try to fix that. So I'll pause this once again and show you once all the nodes are finally healthy. Okay, all the nodes are healthy this time, so I'll go ahead and exit out of this, and we'll do our last step, which is to transfer all the startup configs to the nodes. So this is also notated in the start page on each of these chapters. Basically, all we have to do is run this script, and it'll just prompt you for which topology directory it needs to use. In this case, we're doing MVPN. And this is going to go into the topology file, get the management IPs on each node, SSH to them, and then transfer every config file in that node's lab configs directory. And this is used to be able to change between different labs. Each lab might have a different startup file without having to have a different topology for every single lab. So once this is all set up, you can do potentially dozens of labs off of a single topology. And it's very quick to switch through the different startup config files by using config replace. So you can see this is already done. All the configs have been transferred. So now we're ready to start labbing. So I'll go into MTPUTTY and you'll need to clone the Git repo onto your local desktop or laptop to be able to have these PuTTY sessions. So I'll just load the MVPN PuTTY session in the MVPN directory. Now I've got all the nodes right here. All of the credentials are pre-saved. So all I have to do is just double click them and I'll get one node per tab. Just have to accept all the SSH stuff. And we can use Control Tab and Control Shift Tab to go between tabs with the keyboard. And so now we're just ready to lab. If we go into, let's say, the first lab, it asks us to load this startup config file. So on all the XE nodes, we'll use that command. And I like to just go ahead and send to all because on the XR nodes, there's no harm in running this command. It just won't work. And it's going to ask you if you want to proceed, do Y, send to all. And so now these are loaded on the CSR 1000Vs. There's some like, some config file stuff like certs and things that it's going to warn you about that aren't matching and whatnot, but you can just ignore all that. And then on the XRV nodes, we just need to use this. So we'll just do configure, load that file, and then just commit replace it. I'll do that on P2 and also PE3. It's one of those. And you know which ones are which based on the topology file. It's kind of color coded on which routers, which type of node. So yeah, that's it, and you're ready to get going. The workflow of these is that you load the config files and it gives you the prompt. So configure multicast VPN using GRE tunneling, port file 0, blah, blah, blah. And then it doesn't present you the answer yet. You have to actually scroll down. So you would refrain from scrolling right now, try to answer it yourself. And then you go ahead and scroll down and here's the answer. And then there's like an explanation section with screenshots and then, more explanations. So yeah, it's very similar to the INE's workbook, how this works. So I think that's it. I hope that this is useful. You find the workbook useful. Let me know if there's any other videos you would like to see. I'm not sure how much traction this will get. If there's people wanting to see more, I can make maybe some videos answering these different labs. I can go over kind of my timeline for studying for the SP track, go over the resources I used, things like that. So yeah, just let me know if you'd like to see more, and I hope you find some good use out of the workbook.